I tried to sit down yesterday and record some Risk of Rain for you guys. And for some reason, for whatever reason, Risk of Rain has decided to stop recognizing my controller. Now, this is a frequent problem that I've had with this game over the 7 years I've been playing it. Yeah, it's been that long. It just doesn't like controllers. I don't know why. I don't know what controllers ever did to the people at Risk of Rain Industries Incorporated LLC. So I tried my controller with other Steam games, works fine. Tried my controller with all my other emulators and everything, works absolutely fine. Plugged in my PlayStation 4 controller into the PC, configured it through Steam to get recognized properly, and Risk of Rain picked that up just fine. So I can play with a PS4 controller, but not my Steam controller. I don't understand why. But here's the fun thing about this whole mess, is when I go into here, it still shows me the Steam controller buttons, which I guess are actually Xbox buttons. It's just, this is a game full of mysteries. And a desire to solve these mysteries, to understand the inner workings of the universe, is core, it's essential to what it really means to risk the reins. So after about an hour of futzing around with controller nonsense, I didn't feel like playing Risk of Rain anymore. I sat in the dark for a long time. I thought about things. I contemplated life and love and the spring sweetness that hangs in the air. And almost got eaten by a crab right there. While the spring sweetness hangs in the air. I'm a poet all of a sudden. Poet is actually confirmed to be one of the classes that they're going to put in Risk of Rain 2. It's like on their, whatever it is, like 6-month roadmap. I don't know how the poet class is going to play. I guess your regular attack will be like an ink quill or something, and I don't know. I've lost my mind. I've literally lost my mind. I started this Risk of Rain series because it was at a time when my computer was not allowing... It wasn't working very well. It was a 9-year-old computer. It was long in the tooth. I'm trying to edit HD video on it, and it wasn't working that well. I couldn't average one video per weekday, which is what I normally like to keep in my update schedule. So I was like, well, what I can do then is I can make longer form content for weekend uploads. I don't have to babysit the render. I can just set it and let it go. I can, because it's longer form content and because it's once a week, I can be more experimental with it. The idea at the time was I'll do this for a while until the computer problems are no longer a thing, which they aren't anymore. I've been really good about my update schedule on weekdays this year. I don't think I've missed a day all year in 2019. A weekday, that is. I've missed some Saturdays. That's fine. But the thought at the time was, okay, I'm going to do this thing, and then either I'll do it and my update schedule will go back to normal and I won't worry about it, or I'll like doing it so much that I'll finish up Risk of Rain and I'll think about doing other games. But I can't. I can't, because Risk of Rain will not give me the last 2 monster logs I need. And in my hour of desperation to bring you guys the content that you want, it said, you know what, Brickroad? We've decided here at Risk of Rain Incorporated International LLC, we've decided that we don't think you've shown your love for us, your reverence for us enough, so we're going to take your controller away. Playing with a PS4 controller is no problem. I actually really like the PS4 controller. I like it more than the PS3 controller. In some ways, it feels like a more solid controller to me. I don't like where the start and select buttons are located on the PS4 controller. Obviously, they're not called start and select buttons anymore, but we all know that's what they're called forever. I don't like the big stupid touchpad dumbness that they insist on having. I don't have an expansive PS4 library, but I have yet to play a PS4 game that uses that dumbness for anything good. I'm actually a little surprised, though, plugging it into the PC, that the PC automatically does recognize the touchscreen as a mouse input. I was not expecting that. The Steam controller has these too, so that's probably just Steam functionality. This is one of the monster logs that I need. I'm sure it's just they had that functionality already for the Steam controller, and they're just like, hey, you know, we'll just go ahead and add it in. I need to not get killed by these guys, and it looks like I might. Okay, I think we're good now. We can get up on top of the wisps. Whoa. Alright, what have we got here? Tesla coil and a monster tooth, but no monster log. Well, we got a tier 3 here. So that's a little bit of contact damage, so when dudes get into my hitbox, they will regret it. I actually don't have an extensive console library for any of the consoles right now. I think I've got... Not counting digital downloads, because I tend to lose track of those as I delete them off the console to make room for other stuff, but I've got like 5 PS4 games and like 3 Xbox One games, and as of this recording, only 2 Switch games. Physical Switch games. I've got a couple of downloaded ones. I really enjoyed Oxenfree, which is not a Switch game, I understand, but the day that I bought my Switch and installed it in my house, they happened to have a sale on Oxenfree. That's a game that's been on my Steam wishlist forever, so really, really enjoyed Oxenfree. I liked that game a lot. And what else did I have on there? Blossom Tales, which I didn't like, and then... Oh, Blaster Master. Yeah, I just played some Blaster Master not long ago. I installed Blaster Master 0, and that game was a lot of fun. And I think I want to put it on my YouTube channel at some point. Maybe this year. Maybe in 2027. We'll have to wait and see. I'll tell you what, I'll make you guys a deal. If we have not all been wiped out by nuclear war by 2027, I promise I will record Blaster Master 0 for you. Unless I do it before then on a whim. The important thing right now, though, is Risk of Rain, because I do have 2 or 3 of these long-form games that I would love to do on Saturday updates for you guys, but I can't while Risk of Rain is hanging over my head. And then there's still more Risk of Rain contents I need to do. I wanted... Playing that mercenary run in the last episode made me really just want to buckle down and put an actual mercenary series on my channel. A Ride the Worm series. I want to get it done, but it's hard to justify doing a regular Risk of Rain series while I've got this one going. How much Risk of Rain can you all watch? Judging by my Google Analytics, you guys can watch a lot. So, here we are again, looking for... Well, this is the wrong level 3. We're looking for Ifrit. And Ancient Wisp. And I think that's all we need. That's the only 2 things we need. So we're going to play until we get to the mountain level, and then we're going... The problem is, just sitting on the mountain level and farming it can be very dangerous because of all those spiders. And obviously going really far in any run can be very dangerous until you turn it into a break, until you get a Hopo Feather and a Infusion. So I did talk, I don't know if this was the last episode or a couple episodes ago, but I talked a little bit about Hopo Feather and Infusion being the 2 best items in the game. And I got an interesting comment that made me think about the earliest days that I played Risk of Rain. Way back before... When the game first launched, it didn't launch with all the content that it has now. They added 2 classes later, like 2 new characters to play. They added, I don't know, like a row of items or so. Maybe 10 or so items, and of course all the artifacts and everything. So the content that we've kind of become used to in Risk of Rain now was not all there in the beginning, including the Hopo Feather. The Hopo Feather is one of those items that they added. This was done at a time when I was kind of burned out on Risk of Rain a little bit, because back in those days you had to play without Hopo Feather, you had to play without Glass, which is of course my preferred way to play it, and every single person I know that plays the game, even semi-regularly, Glass is their preferred way to play it. But But yeah, I got comments on one of the videos saying, hey, if like Hopo Feather is the best item, surely Photon Jetpack is the better item. It's just rarer. And Photon Jetpack made me think about those early games of Risk of Rain that I used to play, because there was a time, I'm killing time here waiting for His Majesty to show up. He's going to be here in like 7 seconds. There was a time where, yeah, Photon Jetpack was the most useful item that we could get. We did a lot of multiplayer games where it's like, oh, dude, did you get your Photon Jetpack yet? Yeah, man, I just got one out of a box. You know, like those kind of discussions. The Photon Jetpack, though, has a few problems that keep it from being as good as the Hopo Feather, even though it does give you more verticality per pickup. You can go higher with a Photon Jetpack than you can do with a double jump. So, the way the Photon Jetpack works, I don't know if I've even got one at all in this 26 episode. I think this is episode 26 that I'm recording right now. I don't know that I've got a Photon Jetpack at all in this entire series so far. There's a Toxic Beast. Oh, she's going to stay right over there. Like it. Love it. Want some more of it. Get off the rope! Oh, I got stuck on the rope right there. I didn't mean to tap up, and I did. Okay, let's see what we got dropped. Just some sticky bombs. I think I've already got sticky bombs. I do. That's not terrific. The way Photon Jetpack works is you jump in the air and you get like this little fuel cell that shows up next to your character. Ooh, I got a Philly too. Nice. Philly's the little booger buddy that everybody loves. I probably should get up out of the hole here. We need to get out of here. It's true. How bad do I want? I want the war banner. I want to take it. Just in case we can drop one up here. So you get this like little fuel canister. And as long as you hold the button down, the fuel canister empties and propels you upwards. And then more Photon Jetpacks, if you're lucky enough to find multiples, give you more and more fuel. And there's enough fuel in the canister to give you more than one jump. So like you get your entire first jump, and once your first jump is spent, the fuel canister shows up. And then as long as you hold down the jump button, the fuel canister depletes. If you let off the jump button, the fuel canister starts to refill. And if the jump is high enough, you can actually do a full fuel canister and have it refill before you hit the ground again. So it's a very cool item. A lot of verticality. It offers a lot of freedom of movement. It's a way to get yourself off the ground, which, as I said over and over and over in this game, is the most dangerous place to be in the game overall. If you can get off the ground, the more time you spend with your feet not touching the dirt, the safer you're going to be on average. And Photon Jetpack helps you do that. I still think the Hopo Feather is the better item, though, for a couple reasons. For one, the Photon Jetpack is a great item, and it has a fun little rule set with its canister and the way that you move with it. But it's not like a standard movement style. Like, I have 20 plus years of double jump experience. You know what I mean? Like, to the point where it's just muscle memory. Any game that I play with a double jump, I can like instinctively tap that jump button twice and know exactly what's going to happen. And that's true in Risk of Rain. Once you learn the distance and direction and limitation of your jumps in Risk of Rain, a double jump is a perfect extension of that. And the double jump alone is enough to provide a lot of protection against being on the ground, and it's enough to get you to a lot of places you can't get with just a standard jump. So that's a big part of it, especially for me, and I'm like an old fogey gamer that's set in my ways from 1996 still. Whereas the Photon Jetpack, you technically have all the same freedom of movement in the same directions, but the feel of it is very different, because, speak of the devil, look what I got. There he is. Aw. Like, technically you do have all the same freedom of movement. Like, I can Hopo Feather out and then jump back like this. You can do that same maneuver with a Photon Jetpack. It's just, it takes more brain cycles, because you can't just tap the button twice. You have to hold the button in one direction and then let off of it enough to turn abruptly and then hold it the other direction. And it doesn't feel snappy like a jump. It feels like a continuous movement that you have to interrupt for a moment. Because that's exactly what it is. It's a continuous fuel cell draining thing that you do have to interrupt for a moment. I'm dead. I thought my Tesla coil was going to take care of those birds, and they did not. But the other thing that I think makes the Hopo Feather a better item, hilariously, is like really circular reasoning. Because if you get Hopo Feather and Photon Jetpack together, the Photon Jetpack almost becomes a liability, in a sense. Because the Photon Jetpack doesn't kick in until all of your jumps are done. And most of the time, at least when I play this game, just the jumps are enough to do whatever maneuver I'm looking to do. So I usually only ever need 2 jumps to do what I want to do. And if I hold that second jump button too long and that Photon Jetpack kicks in, it can throw me off my rhythm. It goes back to like the brain cycle muscle memory thing. It's just a little more difficult to control than just the jumps themselves. And again, this is something you could learn and get used to and acclimate into your playstyle, except for the fact that the Photon Jetpack is so rare. It is a tier 3 item. You're not going to see it every run. You're only going to see it... I don't know the actual statistics. I would bet that I probably, maybe once every 40, 50 runs maybe, is when you'll see a particular tier 3 on average. And of course, if you do a breaking run, you're liable to see all kinds of tier 3. But if you're doing a breaking run, none of this other stuff matters, because the game is so easy anyway. So by the time I actually see a Photon Jetpack in a game, chances are I already have 2 or 3 Hopo Feathers, typically. And then it's just some weird thing that shows up if I hold my jump button too long once in a while. I still think that just the having the double jump psychologically is a better control scheme for getting extra verticality than the Photon Jetpack, even though the Photon Jetpack is the stronger item. And because of its how common it is to see the Hopo Feather, it is still the first or second best item in the game. And that's my explanation for that. And I love that I was explaining this and I got one and then I lost it. Risk of rain giveth, risk of rain taketh away, something something, the sweet spring breeze. What was I talking about? I need to go all the way over here. Look at all these wisps. That's a lot of wisps all in one spot. I thought those wisps were all dead and I could safely kill this vagrant and not worry about him. I think a lot of dumb things sometimes. That's a neat first item to get. Can I get this? God, I want that. There's no way I can get up there though, right? Like, it's not going to happen. Oh, that's a damn dirty shame. See, this what I mean? This game just does me up dirty all the time. It giveth, it taketh away. That's a weird thing to see happen this early in a run. Something stuck in a wall that you can't get, but... And this is another thing that diminishes the Photon Jetpack's use compared to the Hopo Feather, is the actual amount of jump that you get is usually not that big of a deal, because usually you don't need X amount of jump. Usually what you need is just X little bit more amount of jump. Like, it's... Jumping 30 pixels versus 10 pixels is not that big of a deal when what you really need is to jump 12 pixels, if that makes sense. But I do remember those days, man, like, Photon Jetpack, that used to be our benchmark for whether we knew a run was going to go well. Because if you play this game multiplayer, you can safely... I don't know if I want to say safely, but you can die, and then you can't be revived during the round, but if your companions complete the round that you're playing, you come back to life in the next round. So it wasn't uncommon for like a bunch of us to die early in a level and like one guy to carry the whole rest of the level and get a bunch of items. And then that person had a lot more items, so they would have to carry through future levels, and they'd be like, hey, there's a box over here, maybe there's a Photon Jetpack in it. I try to be very careful when I'm trying to measure how good an item or a strategy or whatever is in a game, to not measure it programmatically, by which I mean an attack in like an RPG that deals 100 damage is not necessarily better than an attack that deals 90 damage if most of your enemies only have 90 hit points, that kind of thing. And I can pinpoint exactly the moment in time that I made this realization that something that's better on paper is not necessarily better overall than some other thing. Back in 2001 or 2 or so, I graduated high school in 2000, and for the next couple of years, I was going to school and working full-time. And basically exhausting myself. It's not any kind of fun life. I didn't enjoy it. I ended up not completing school, and now I'm a hobo. I live in the train yard. So, but what I did a lot of that time, because I didn't have a lot of time or money to buy brand new games. This was the GameCube era, and I did buy a lot of GameCube games, but not as many as I would have liked. And I spent a lot of that time playing old games, reconnecting with old games that I remembered liking back in the day, but getting really analytical with them. For me, over especially the first summer after I graduated high school, which would have been 2000, before I started school, and I don't think I was working that summer. I might not have been. I don't really remember. But I got more enjoyment out of playing an old game that I really loved and learning it in new and crazy ways. That was the time period that I first did a solo run in Final Fantasy 1. That was the time period where I learned Super Metroid really well. This is not very good. I did not want to get hit by that elite right there. I probably want to kill that elite, though, because he might... I'm dead again. Oh, my roll wasn't up. I tried to dive roll out of the way, but it wasn't off cooldown yet. I was like, is my PlayStation controller not working? No, it's just the countdown wasn't done yet, Brickroad. That's why that didn't work. So one of the games that I was playing at this time was Bionic Commando for the NES. This is a game that I played as a kid, that I loved as a kid. I beat it as a kid, but I got good at it that summer as a young adult. In fact, at the time, I was posting a lot on the GameFAQs message boards for any game that I really liked, especially Super Metroid. And I haven't logged into my GameFAQs account for years and years and years, but if you go on GameFAQs, you can look at some of the stuff that I published at the time. Like, I think I've got a really terrible move lists for Super Smash Brothers that's up there, and I know I've got something for Willow for the NES. I think I don't remember if I ever published the stuff that I compiled for Bionic Commando, but it's all under my GameFAQs handle of Brickroad 19 because I was 19 years old when I was writing all that nonsense. I think I've got a thing up there that's just I've got a old. I used it for the Let's Play channel once. I had a walkthrough the Adventures of Lolo where I have every single level in the game done up in ASCII characters, not ASCII graphics. I guess they're graphics. I'm getting really sidetracked. The point is, I was playing Bionic Commando, and in Bionic Commando, there's a couple items you can get that deflect bullets. You get shot a lot in Bionic Commando. You can't jump in that game. So what they did is they gave you some items that can deflect bullets. The first of these items is a pendant. You put on the pendant. The first bullet that hits you in the stage bounces off harmlessly. Doesn't do anything. Edgar's real upset about something out there. I'm just going to ignore him and keep playing. And if there's a burglar in my house, he will probably kill me. And then I won't be able to upload this video. So you'll never know about it. That's the story of that. You put on this pendant. It blocks the first bullet that hits you in a level. It just bounces off harmlessly. Later on in the game, you can get a helmet. And the helmet is the same thing, just a little bit better. It blocks the first 3 bullets that hit you in a level. They just bounce off harmlessly. And then later than that, the second to last level in the game, Area 11 of a 12-level game, you get a bulletproof vest. And it's the best item of all. Every other bullet that hits you bounces off harmlessly. Doesn't matter how many bullets get fired at you. every other shot is you're immune to it. So sounds great, right? The bulletproof vest is unequivocally the best defensive item that you can put on. But in actual gameplay, in actual practice, that turns out to not be the case. Because, think about it. You put on the helmet, oh, I got a Philly again. I don't mind Philly as my first item. You put on the helmet, you get shot once, it bounces off. You get shot twice, it bounces off. You get shot 3 times, it bounces off. How many levels in the game are you actually going to take more than 3 shots? It's not that many, and if you're getting shot that much, it's because you're not really skilled at the game. You're probably going to die even if you deflect all those 3 shots. And now think about it with the bulletproof vest. You get shot once, it bounces off, just like the helmet. You get shot twice, it hits you. You get shot 3 times, it bounces off, just like the helmet. You get shot 4 times and it hits you. If you get shot 5 times, it bounces off, just like the helmet. So now you've deflected as many shots as the helmet can. You get shot 6 times and it hits you. It's not until you get shot 7 times that the bulletproof vest deflects its 4th bullet that it has given you more defense than the helmet has. And if you get shot 7 times over the course of a level, that's just not a thing that happens in Bionic Commando. It's just... So, compounding this problem is you get the bulletproof vest so late in the game. There's only 1 level left in the game after you get this item, and it's the final level. And it's a very dangerous level, but most of the danger in that level are not dudes shooting you. There's actually very little in that level that can just shoot you with regular bullets, the kind that will bounce off of your bulletproof vest. And it's not really a bulletproof vest, it only blocks every other bullet, right? It's like a bullet-resistant vest? I don't know. But it's like, you know what? There's really only 2 rooms in this whole level where you're being shot with regular bullets, and you have to stay in those rooms for like 2 straight minutes to even see 7 shots. So I'm betting the number of players in Bionic Commando history that have actually experienced more defensive ability from the vest than the helmet might actually be 0. That's how marginal the bulletproof vest is in that game. So whenever I think of how effective things are in these games, I always try to think like how practical they also are. It's nice that this attack does more damage than that attack or whatever, but games aren't just about getting the biggest numbers possible. Some games are. Diablo 3 is. But they're about, like, ease of use and efficiency. There's all these other considerations to take into account. I remember a conversation I had years and years ago. This was before there were many Super Nintendo ROM hack communities. This was way before randomizers. This was way before any Final Fantasy game got remade ad nauseum. I was discussing one of my favorite games, Final Fantasy IV, with some friends of mine in an online community that I was a member of. And we were discussing who the best characters were in the game. To me, then as now, this is kind of a moot point. Final Fantasy IV doesn't let you pick your party. At least the original version of it did. In the world before remakes and randomizers and everything. You have to use the party that the game gives you. So trying to discuss which character is better than which other character is kind of pointless outside of the context of those 5 characters that you have to use anyway. Please give me my monster log. Please. So, this is where the discussion went. And I don't fault the discussion for going here, and it is a situation where they're technically right. No monster log. Okay. And we're dead. I don't care if I'm dead. That's fine. Because I do need this Ancient Wisp monster log. So trying again from level 1 and then maybe getting an Ancient Wisp in level 2 is not a terrible use of my time. Now that I'm only half paying attention to this game that doesn't like my controller anymore. The conversation we got into was black mages, and in Final Fantasy IV, mathematically speaking, the best black mage is Palom. Palom gets black magic spells earlier than his competition, which is Rydia. I think just as a base, he has just better base stats, like his spells come out a little faster, they're a little more powerful. He's the better wizard, there's no contest. Rydia gets more unique magic, like she gets all her summon spells and things, but a lot of times that's not really necessary in Final Fantasy IV. Not really desirable because summon spells have such a large casting time. You have to be really sure you want to commit to that casting time before you select one, and the reason you might select one over a comparable black magic spell is because Rydia gets black magic spells very late compared to her summon magic, which she gets pretty early on. Like, you're going to get access to, say, the Leviathan summon spell way before you get stuff like Ice 3, which is a comparable damage black magic spell. Not so with Palom. Palom gets the good black magic spells pretty early. He gets them pretty early on. He gets Quake at, I think, something ridiculous, like level 30 something. It's astounding how early he gets Quake. Can you kill me there? You probably can. I'm gonna back off, I think. And that's the argument this person was making. Like, Palom is the better black mage for this and this and this reason. It's like, yeah, you're not wrong, but you're right in the most useless way possible, because Palom leaves the party at, like, level 12. If you... Like, no reasonable player has ever noticed that, hey, Palom gets the nuke spell a few levels earlier than Rydia, because to get Palom the nuke spell, you would have to grind experience points on very weak monsters for so long, it would literally take less time to just play the entire game, get Rydia, and have her learn the nuke spell. Obviously, as kids, we did get Palom the nuke spell because we had Game Genie codes, and it let us do all kinds of funky stuff, but that's not really a good context to be talking about a game in. Like, well, if you cheat in this specific way, then yes, this one character is 3 points better. Of course, now that I play randomizers and I've been replaying the PSP version of Final Fantasy IV the past couple weeks. Like, oh yeah, no, Palom's better, no question. But that's the kind of thing that I mean. Like, is the couple of points, the couple of levels earlier that he gets this and that spell really that useful of a benchmark for a character that's only in your party for 2 hours at the beginning of the game that you will never use at that level? I'm genuinely asking. I don't actually know the answer to that. Apparently, I think it is important to some people. To some people, it is important to have that kind of granular knowledge of the game, but that's only half of what makes you knowledgeable about a game. Having the granular knowledge is definitely useful, but being able to apply it in useful ways is, to me, the more important skill. I see this a lot in D&D communities, too. I check out a lot of D&D communities, watch a lot of discussions about D&D, because I like to keep... I play a lot of D&D myself. I run and play in a game every week. And I consider myself very blessed for having two separate, but also very good D&D groups. Like, I realize that mine is a charmed position in the Dungeons & Dragons universe. Most people don't have that luxury. I do have that luxury, and I'm dead again, because I jumped dumbly into a blue elite. He didn't smash me, come on, he electrocuted me. Let's be clear. So in Dungeons & Dragons, in 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons, which is the version of D&D that pretty much everybody plays nowadays, the only reason to play any other edition of D&D is just nostalgia. That's the only reason. If you meet anybody and they're like, yeah, you know, I still play 3rd edition, you can be like, Grognard. Just call them a Grognard. They'll know what it means. It's fine. So, you get experience levels in 5th edition D&D, but you don't gain them infinitely. The highest experience level is 20. And the game has some kind of vague rules for what to do for character advancement beyond level 20, but the basic understanding of D&D is that the game is best at, like, the mid-range levels. 5 to 15 is about the sweet spot for me, I find. Before level 5, characters are not as useful. They feel kind of weak. Level 5 specifically is when a lot of the classes get their, like, trademark abilities and really start coming into their own. They start getting like fireball spells. Wizards get that at level 5. That's when fighter classes get like their first extra attack. So the classes kind of come into their own. They start feeling really powerful. But if you go further than like 15 or so, from a DM perspective, running the game, it's very difficult to present the game as any kind of challenge. Characters level 15 and higher have so many immunities and so many options and just so many high damage abilities and so many different combinations of all of those things that it's really difficult to challenge them in a way that doesn't feel cheap, that doesn't just feel like, oh, I felt like killing your guys, so I made this invincible monster that just happens to be immune to all the stuff you have. Which I've done shamelessly and will do again in campaigns that I run that go beyond level 15. So that's about the sweet spot. Between 5 and 15, most players, I think, of 5th edition would agree that's about the sweet spot of the game. But the game does continue all the way up to level 20. At level 20, you get essentially a capstone ability. It's a really powerful ability that makes every class... It gives every class something really special and really powerful. Sitting here now discussing it, I can literally not think of a single example of one of these capstone abilities, despite playing the game twice a week for years, because I don't think I've ever had a game go all the way to level 20 where it's mattered. But when I read the discussions and the theory crafting and the what class is better than what other class discussions, this kind of thing, on the internets, on the Reddits, and what have you, I see these capstone abilities come up over and over and over. Like, yeah, this class has this problem, but as soon as you get this ability, it's all downhill. That ability's level 20, fam. The game's over by that point. There's no campaign left to play at level 20. If you haven't played D&D before, and you're kind of grasping for something that'll help you understand what I mean. You gain experience points from killing monsters, you apply those experience points to experience levels, and when you gain an experience level, you get new abilities. 20 is the highest, and the capstone ability at 20 is considered the most powerful thing in your class. The problem is, though, that campaigns don't go on forever. Campaigns have a beginning, a middle, and an end. It's not fashionable to run a campaign forever and ever and ever. That used to be the case in older editions of D&D. This Magwarm's going to kill me. No, he's not. There's my infusion. Let's keep this run going. Let's do this one upright, eh? So most people who play D&D don't design their own... That's a use item I want right there. Guarded by Jaleli's. Got the backup. Nice, okay. Most people who run D&D games don't write all their own material. They don't design their own dungeons. They don't write their own stories. This is not an indictment against those people. I use pre-made material a lot in my games. Most of what, if you watch my Sunday D&D streams, most of what I have is stolen from smarter people, and I just put it together like Lego bricks for my own game. I download maps, I use story ideas. But what most people play are the prepared adventure paths. You can buy a hardbound book, 200 pages, has an entire adventure path, and it'll say, like, this is for levels whatever to whatever. One I ran was called Curse of Strahd. It's like a gothic horror themed adventure path, and it says this runs from level 1 to 10. And it has guidelines in the adventure for, like, you don't even need to count experience points for this campaign. Just every time the players do something, like complete an adventure, level them up 1 level, and then once they get to 10, just stop doing that. And then that's what I did when I ran the game. I actually wanted a longer campaign that was in the book, so I ran it. I mean, my style is just more of a slow burn D&D style. Anyway, I don't really like to run episodic adventures or one-shots or anything. So what I decided to do instead was every time these guys completed like a mission, I would give them half of a level. So every 2 missions, they would go up a level. And that worked out really well. They got to about level 9 before they were out of content in the module. All they had at that point was to storm the final dungeon and confront Count Strahd. And then in the course of doing that final dungeon and solving some problems and tidying up some storylines, they got their 10th level there, and it worked really well. But the campaign ends at level 10. And this is not an anomaly in Curse of Strahd. Every prepared 5th edition adventure path that I'm aware of ends at or before level 10. I don't think any of them go further than that. I need to drink my water now. Out of my A Hard Day's Night Beatles cup that I have. So any discussion of how good D&D characters are because of their capstone ability, or because of what level 9 spells they get, or pretty much anything they get after 15th level, kind of doesn't matter, because the game is over by that point. I don't doubt eventually they will put out, like I know for 2nd and 3rd editions, back when I used to buy a lot of D&D supplements as a kid, 2nd edition was what ruled the roost, and then I had friends who bought a lot heavily into 3rd edition. They'll put out like epic level adventures. This is for heroes who are on that planet destroying 300 hit point level 9 spell charges at will. Like, this is for those heroes, these grand epic scale adventures where you're fighting gods and etc, etc, etc. They haven't so far, though. So far, if you want to run that kind of campaign, you're kind of just left to dangle in the wind. You've got to do it based on either your own imagination or maybe something that someone's put out in the DM guilds. But there's no prepared adventures that go that far. I literally cannot think of a level 20 capstone ability sitting here. That's not true. The wizards get a... I wish I had climbed down that ladder a second sooner. The wizard class gets a signature spell, but I forget exactly what the signature spell does. Probably that, like, they can... If I had to guess, and the books are all the way on the other side of the room, and I'm not going to go get up and read one in the middle of recording, but if I had to guess, the wizard's signature spell would probably be like, you don't expend a spell slot when you cast this spell. You can just cast it for free, like once per short rest or something. I don't know that that's actually the case, but that sounds like a good capstone ability for a wizard. Got a spell that you cast all the time, you can make it your signature spell. It can be any spell, you can cast it as much as you want. I saw another example that I'm trying to formulate in my mind. It might have been in somebody's like really old, decrepit game fac now. Oh, I thought of a good example that I actually disproved later in life. Okay, there's a walkthrough. Do you guys read video game walkthroughs for fun? Because I used to. I used to go to game facts and read the plain text walkthroughs. I think I mentioned I've written a couple in my day, but I used to just read them for enjoyment, even if I didn't need them to complete a game. And one of my favorites back in the day, when I was writing a lot of these, the newest Final Fantasy game at the time was Final Fantasy IX. And there was, I'll bet it's still online, I haven't gone and checked, but I'll bet there was a like low-level walkthrough for Final Fantasy IX, like how to complete the game at the lowest possible level. And this walkthrough has been online as long as the game has been playable. And you can tell that the guy like imported the game from Japan and tried to like translate it himself because all the character names are misspelled and everything. It's actually really amusing. But he has like some mechanics that he talks about in the game, and he talks about the speed mechanic and how the speed stat and how useless it is, because it puts like some variant in like where your characters start on their ATB bar and how fast it fills up for their first turn in a battle. And at first this kind of sounds like what I'm talking about, because yeah, there is a speed stat and you can say character A has a higher speed than character B, but in practice it doesn't matter, because let's roll out of here. Let's not die. Let's get that. Alright, very good. Got the, is that Shattering? That's Shattering Justice. Nice. Boom. Reduce armor on enemies. I like reducing armor. Like, yeah, you could say this character has X speed more than this character, but in practice, if all it's good for is this one, like, small thing, and the difference in speed is never enough to grant one character an extra turn over another, which in Final Fantasy IX, it's not. Your characters... You can't get your speed difference between two characters to such a point that one character will lap another one. It's just not possible. Like, yeah, even though there is this stat in the game, maybe it doesn't do anything super useful. It just doesn't matter that much. That's the case that this walkthrough made, was, yeah, this character has higher speed, but can I please make this jump? Apparently I cannot. There we go. But because speed is only, like, for this one thing, it wasn't until years and years and years later that I read a more comprehensive mechanics walkthrough. No, it turns out that speed factors into some weapon calculations and damage calculations for certain abilities, predominantly on the hero of the game, who's a thief. So, like, speed is useless, but it's super useful for him in particular. So I had to be careful about these arguments, because, hey, you know what? Sometimes the edge cases are really vitally important. This Ifrit's all the way up here. Okay, well, this is one of the guys that I need. And I'm just going to push against this wall. I want to kill him, and then go to Boar Beach, and then come back. Although that is a good way to crash the game, is Ifrit and Boar Beach do not get along sometimes. We did not get a monster log. We did get Ifrit's horn. I don't even remember what that does. Chance to fire a flaming wave. Is that on hit, or it must be on hit, because I'm not firing any flaming waves here. Let's go to Bra Beach. I've actually been replaying Final Fantasy IX recently, in the dumbest way possible. I'm playing the Steam version, I'm using all the cheats and everything, and the fast forward and whatnot. I've been making custom board game decks. Oh, there's that flaming wave. I guess it's on hit then. Making custom board game decks. There's a board game called Disney Villainous that I've really enjoyed lately. My wife and I got a copy for Christmas last year, and we played it a whole bunch. I've been playing a whole bunch of it online. I'm like, you know what? This is a game where you pick your Disney villain to play as, and I'm like, it'd be cool if it was a Final Fantasy version of this. And then, like, angelic Kevin Costner descended from the sky and said, Brickroad, be the change you want to see in the world. If you build it, they will play villainous. Or however the movie quote goes. I don't really remember. So I started putting together custom Final Fantasy decks for Villainous. And I actually have, as of this recording, I have one video on YouTube describing my deck for Golbez from Final Fantasy IV. We have a couple other villains that are in a playable state. Garland is pretty good. I think Garland might be the next one that we finalize. Playtesting is mostly been kind to him. Arden is another one. He's in a pretty good state, although I don't think Arden's won a game yet. Kefka I'm working on. He needs a lot of work. The Kefka deck is not working very well and still needs a lot of tweaking and polishing and playing around with. But one of the villains that I'm doing is Final Fantasy IX's Queen Brani, so I have to play through Final Fantasy IX to get the graphical assets for the cards for her deck. And, like, alright, I'll just play with the cheat codes on, and I love Final Fantasy IX, but man, that game is kind of a slog, even with the cheat codes and all the fast forward. There's just a lot of cutscenes. Part of it's my mindset playing the game. Like, if you know you only need to get to one particular part in the game to, like, get one screenshot or something, everything else in the game is just like, come on, get on with it! Just get past this part. The real fun part is I have another deck for Sin, the giant whale monster in Final Fantasy X, and I don't have a version of Final Fantasy X that's got crazy cheat codes or lets you even skip cutscenes or anything. Like, you can't even skip the movies. It's like, I'm just going to have to slog my way through God knows how much of that game. And also, I hate that game. So, not going to be super fun. But I'm going to get it done. We're going to get it done. Ugh, not looking forward to it. I'm really not looking forward to this. One of the villains I selected, we tried to keep, I say we, I actually made all these decisions, but there's like, I don't know, 8 or 9 other people involved in all the playtesting, and we're discussing it all the time. Like, the buck stops with me, but I'm not the only person who's... We need to get out of here. That is not a smart place to be. Oh, that's terrible up there. I don't like it. I do not like it, sir. You know what? We're going to make a kill floor down here, and we're going to go back for that scavenger later. It might be that the hit points we get from using our infusion in this area will make the difference when we go up to fight that scavenger Ifrit combo. And no verticality. Like, I'm not going to be able to get over the scavenger shots or anything like that. That's a gross fight. We wanted to keep an even split between male and female villains. Like, we didn't just want it to be a sausage party up-ins. The base villainous game with Disney villains does that too. It's about half and half. Ladies to man types. I think with the expansion, it's 5 dudes and 4 ladies. Yeah, 4 ladies. Ursula, the Evil Queen, the Queen of Hearts, and Maleficent. And not Cruella de Vil for some reason. Cruella de Vil's on the box art for the game, but she's not actually in the game. I don't know what the haps is there. But we wanted to keep the same kind of split. The problem is there's not that many great female villains in Final Fantasy. I selected Ultimecia. She's the main villain of Final Fantasy VIII. She's just a cool villain. She's pretty good. So that was an easy pick. But then it's like, well, who else do you go with? Final Fantasy III has the Cloud of Darkness, but like she's not really a villain. She's just like the space flea that shows up at the end of the game for absolutely no reason. So I'm like, okay, well, Final Fantasy IX, the main villain is Kuja, but we don't need to have Kuja. We can just do Queen Brani instead. And her deck is going to be pretty interesting. I'm in the process of finalizing it now, going through the game and getting the assets and everything. But I'm like, okay, well, who else could we use? Like, we need at least, like, one more female villain from the Final Fantasy series. There's got to be someone. And the only one that came to mind, one of my favorite Final Fantasy characters over the past couple of years, is Shantoto from Final Fantasy XI, a game that I have not played since the late aughts. It's been a long time since I played Final Fantasy XI. It's been a long time since I played any MMORPG. And I don't think I ever actually saw Shantato in Final Fantasy XI when I played. I think, because originally she was put into the game and she wasn't meant to be like the main representative character of the game that she's kind of become. Like, she's almost that game's mascot now. Anytime they put a bunch of Final Fantasy characters into a big barrel, Shantato is the one they pick from 11 when they do Dissidia and Theatrhythm and all the other stuff. Even World of Final Fantasy, she's the one they picked. But she's like this maniacal kind of... Like, she's not a villain in the story, but she does have her own little side quests. Like, side story. I think it was DLC at one point. DLC in an MMORPG. Wow, the balls on Square Enix. Where, like, an alternate Shantato from an evil dimension came and tried to take over the world. And, like, she was the villain. And then at the end, the real Shantato shows up, and she's like, oh, well, I ended up in another dimension, and I tried to take it over, but it didn't go well for me. Like, that's funny, right? We're going to be as smart as we can about this. By which I mean, we're going to... I want to face the other direction, though, right? Yeah, so I can get the scavenger with my shots. Okay, he did not drop his monster log. That's fine, though. Now we can lock the scavenger down. And Fireman's Boots. I'll take them. I will take them in lieu of a monster log. So Shantato's the villain I chose for Final Fantasy XI. I have a pretty good deck prototype for her. I have no art assets from Final Fantasy XI. I have no way to play Final Fantasy XI without buying the game again. And then... So I'm going to have to take a month, probably this summer, and just play Final Fantasy XI to get to the point where I unlock that quest and I'm strong enough to complete it so I'm free to get the assets that I need. So, yeah, there's my Will-o'-the-Wisp that the game cheated me out of earlier. It's back! I do not have the verticality I need to take care of the Cremator. So, I could die here pretty easily, but whatever, dying is... Like, I'm not... You can't really get attached to any particular run, because... Like, right now I am, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 levels away from my next chance of getting one of the monster logs I need. if an Ancient Wisp drops on level 2 of the next loop. If I die in this level, I'm only 2 levels away from my next chance at a monster log. So getting attached to a run doesn't actually make sense at this point. And I'm even further away from my next shot at the Ifrit log. The probabilities are just not on my side today. Neither is the Hopo Feathers, apparently. Oh, by the way, I decided to play Commando today. I'm not sure if you guys noticed, but yeah, doing a good old Commando run for once. So what I've been doing is, I've got this Final Fantasy decks. I've been making, I'll take a crowbar for this long fall. Why not? I made the Final Fantasy decks, and I've kind of imposed a table rule. Like, we can only play one Final Fantasy villain, like one of the custom villains, at the table at a time. Everybody else has to take one of the Disney villains. And that's just for balancing purposes. We know that the Disney villains are pretty well balanced in and of themselves. I gotta go all the way around again. I can't make the jump up there. Wow, okay. Sure thing, Haas. Let's go. All the way around. Let's mosey. And that's just a good way to keep them balanced. Like, we can eyeball one villain at a time as long as we're measuring them against a table of known quantities is a lot easier than trying to eyeball 4 villains at a time when we don't know if any of them are good. So that's what we've been doing. I think Golbez is almost in a state where I could say, okay, he's probably balanced enough. We can just let Golbez at any table. But so far, I haven't done that because I don't want people to have fun. I want people to do what I say, when I say it, all the time. Alright, Cremator. Take me home, Daddy. There he is. We are about to die here. We don't have very good healing at the moment. There are a lot of spiders everywhere. So I need a taser. I'm going to get that taser. This is dangerous, but I'm going to get it. My dodge roll was up. I checked that time. Let's wait for one more volley. Okay. Ugh, I do not like my health. I don't have any Guardian Hearts. I don't like this situation at all. Dude, I want to try to run out the clock over here. I think I need to circle around and run out the clock is what I need to try to do here. Go down to the Cremator later. I can't tell. Do I have head stompers? I'm not sure. No, I do not. Okay. This is too many flying Lemurians. We need to do something about all these guys. Okay, that's a good start. Crowbar will help eventually. Had to dodge roll to get past those shots. I dodge rolled too early there. It's not going to be off cooldown now when I need it. Okay, I survived. Somehow by pure luck. We're at remaining enemies. There's crit glasses, a wicked ring. Took a direct hit from a missile there. That's not good. Okay, we're going to deal with this floor next. We're getting all of our healing from Monster Tooth right now, it looks like. I don't really have much of anything else to heal with. Alright, I think we can safely go get the Cremator now. It's going to depend on what other terrible monsters are down here. Climbing these stairs is going to be a little dangerous. Okay. So far, so good. I do not like Cremator being directly below me because you can never tell exactly where the shots are going to come from. Sometimes you don't have much of a choice. Get out of the lava! Oh god, this is bad. That was really bad. I don't have the verticality to jump out of the lava when I need to, so we gotta back off and heal naturally while he's going ham. Oh good, there were monsters up here to kill. For monster teeth. We have one mysterious vial. That is some health regen. Oh, I can't. I gotta finish this Cremator off. Are we dead? We are not dead somehow. Now we're dead. I mean... Alright, let's do one more run today. You know what? I lied earlier. It still does sting when you lose the run like that. Even though it literally didn't matter, and even though it literally is faster to just give up if you don't see the monster you need, I still would have preferred to push on rather than get killed by that Cremator. The mistake that I made was trying to retreat the first time. I had got his health down low enough to where he was shooting volleys more swiftly. He was shooting way more bombs than he was. And it was just too many bombs to actually conceivably dodge while trying to fill my health back up. Trying to kill him fast was the only way that was going to play out. We'll give it one more try today. That was it. That was the one more try. And now we're dead. And once again, no progress. No progress today. Got all the items. Don't need any more of those. We still need these 2 monster logs. They still elude me. They will always elude me. I will be playing this game forever.